Go ahead, Elko.
All right, I'll start whenever you want, Jessica.
Yeah, we might as well get started.
Okay.
In time.
I'm Gail Brewer, Manhattan Borough President. I want to thank I don't know what you call yourselves, the loyal 3 o'clock at Tuesdays. I deeply appreciate it. And we try every Tuesday to have information that's helpful to you in this very complicated city. This may not be a full hour because we don't have as many speakers as we have in the past, but we have some fabulous people. I want to say under testing and vaccine, and I know there are always people here from the Department of Health or OEM, and I appreciate it. It seems like things are getting better, but and we also heard that the wait times are down for testing. In other words, people do not have to wait in line. This week we did have a press conference on Sunday with the business improvement districts, people from East Harlem, to talk about how to address street homelessness and drug use. And I know that next week the city's health commissioner will join us to talk about some of his strategies to address the opioid epidemic. It's almost, I don't know if I have the right number, over 2,300 people have died in this year from drug overdose, particularly because of this opioid. I guess as somebody who sat on the board of Veritas Therapeutic for 25 years, took the kids who parents were in the program so that they wouldn't have to get into the foster care system. I did that for many years and saw drug abuse. It's horrible and it has to stop. This is so preventable. Every single person who went through that program, including Abby Hoffman, by the way, if you remember him, was 100% on their feet in 18 months. So it's really, really easy to address. People should not die. At this press conference, we called for the mayor to use the Attorney General's settlement money. That's from the Sackler family, and it's somewhere between 140 and I think 246 million for the city of New York to address and support those nonprofits that are addressing the issue. I understand now that the money may not be available until January, and I understand also some may know more than I, but there's a board that I don't know if it's appointed by the Attorney General and the mayor. But my understanding is the mayor, whomever it is, will make a decision as to how that money is allocated. So in my case, Manhattan, I want Midtown addressed. I want the Sarah D. Roosevelt Park addressed. I want East Harlem addressed. The parts of the Lower East Side, and we're working in Washington Square Park where there has been some great focus and improvement with 7 nonprofits working together. Greenwich House, Exodus, many others with the Parks Department and NYPD, and it's being successful. People are getting support and getting treatment. Today, we're going to focus on technology. It has played an absolutely outsized role during the pandemic. It helped some of us stay in touch. Some of us keep working. Some of us keep meeting. So the question is, what did we learn from that? How will it continue to shape our lives? And how will technology have to change to meet the demands of our new reality as we recover? So I am very, very supportive of Beta NYC, and we will hear more about it in a minute in case you don't know what it is. And so I'm going to call on Gabby Langston. She's a former CUNY Civic Innovation Fellow, and she's currently an apprentice at Beta NYC. She's going to talk about the People's Tech Assemblies that we're doing with the Public Advocate's Office and Beta NYC to draw more people into the discussion about technology moving forward. I don't need to tell anybody here, because we're all on Zoom, how much has changed on the tech front and how much still needs to be changed on the tech front in order to address the needs of New Yorkers. So Gabby, go ahead and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to thank the Manhattan Borough President and her staff for letting me speak here today. So I've been privileged to take part in our ongoing project, the New York City People's Tech Assemblies, which is derived from our 2013 People's Roadmap. So 8 years ago, a group of New Yorkers, very much like yourselves, gathered to form the People's Roadmap to outline a comprehensive public interest technology vision. And as a result, the People's Roadmap led to new government accountability laws, outlined pathways to strengthen our municipal open data program, and it also forced the city to publish audits of the data. And as a result of this roadmap, we have had ideas drafted into legislation and signed into law. And we hope to create a similar outline and have similar outcomes with the New York City People's Tech Assemblies. So by way of introduction, the New York City People's Tech Assemblies are a series of engagements for New Yorkers to share their voice on tech issues across the city, especially as we recover from the pandemic. These engagements can include a community survey, online forums, roundtable events, and facilitated conversations. And the goal of this initiative is to inspire New Yorkers and incoming New York City government decision makers to think big and tread boldly. Today, I'm here to ask for your help participating in the New York City People's Tech Assemblies through Citizen Lab, which is our online discussion platform. We also need your help in facilitating conversations using your expertise, attending our office hours if you have any questions, and of course, helping us spread the word. We need input from New Yorkers near and far on their experiences with government services and technology, especially in the age of COVID. So to end, there are 2 timeframes I would like for you to keep in mind today. So first, if you're interested in becoming a facilitator, please fill out our sign-up form, which I'll post in the chat feature by October 30th. And also keep in mind that if you want your community's insights to be sent to the incoming administration, our engagement period ends November 14th. So to end, we would love for you all to join this movement. And if you know of anyone who would also be interested, please feel free to forward them the links that I'll post momentarily as well. So thank you again for your time. And yes, thank you very much for letting me speak here today. I really appreciate it.
Gabby, thank you. I have been on some of these wonderful forums, and you're at first you're like, what the hell are we doing? What is this thing? And then you get talking to other people and you see that there's so many ideas out there. Now I have to talk about Fern's seniors. So Fern has a whole bunch of seniors in all her different centers, Fern Herzenberg. And what they do is they do intergenerational. So it's hysterical. So the seniors come in with, this is like where we're at in many cases, and we have to go where people are at. Seniors have their cell phones and they don't have a clue how to use them. And of course, students come in and one-to-one show them how to use it. It's the most phenomenal, well-attended, exciting, this is what we should be doing kind of forum. I've seen them a couple of times. I love every minute of it. God knows I don't know how to use all the features on my cell phone. I use it every second and I don't know how to do it. So what I'm saying, Gabby, is maybe you could just for 1 minute, just talk a little bit exactly what happens at a forum, and maybe not just how people can get involved, but what they can get out of it. So that would be helpful.
Okay. Yes. So I do want to emphasize to participate in our forums, you don't necessarily have to be an expert on technology. We welcome all New Yorkers to participate. And in terms of what you can experience from these forums, they're basically insightful discussions on how technology plays a role in our daily lives. And we just wanted to provide a safe space for people to come together and share their ideas, feedback, thoughts, and just to reiterate, you do not need to be an expert. You do not need to be well acquainted with technology. Even if you decide to come along and listen into these conversations, you're more than welcome to. So this is a very inclusive effort, and we wanted to be very mindful of diversity as well, and collecting input from New Yorkers.
Okay. I mean, I think we need these kinds of discussions because everybody's at a different level. I mean, what I am tired of is every elected official, every person who gets involved with public policy. Oh, I mean, all you have to do is push a button and everything, every government service is going to be at your computer and your cell phone. I've heard that for 20 years and it darn right does not happen. So I think the idea is what could make something close to that happen. But I'm tired of hearing that. So I just roll my eyes and say, been there, done that. Not happening. But that's the kind of discussion you can have at these forums. So anyway, are there any questions? And you'll get information, right, Gabby, from the chat. You'll put in all that. All right. I mean, you're welcome to do it. The public advocate is also head of something called COVID. What the hell is it? No, it's not called COVID. What the hell is it called? It's a commission on something or
COPIC.
other.
Yeah,
COPIC.
COPIC. Right.
Jim Karras knows about COPIC too. And it's basically how you can, you know, COPIC, Commission on Public Interest and something. You can tell me in a minute. I used to work on it many years ago when I was in the public advocate's office when it first started. It's supposed to be, it used to be on paper. That's hysterical. It's supposed to be how all these different agencies can use technology to communicate. And it's, I know now it's a new world. Jim, do you want to add to it what COPIC is? You're muted. You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, mute. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay, COPIC, Commission on Public Information Education or something.
Public information and communication. It's supposed to improve the public's access to communication. I don't know a lot more about it.
Right. Well, what we're saying is the public advocate has the role to a certain extent of finding out how technology can best serve New Yorkers. And as somebody who, you know, has spent a great deal of years working on this, I really appreciate these forums. So I just want people to know that they exist. Gabby did a great job of illustrating it, and you might want to be involved. Everything from, you know, seniors to young people and everybody else. How can government improve its use of technology for the people? It's the hardest darn question to get the answer to, but we're all trying.
And I think they're supposed to publish an annual report on data, which I know for a long time they didn't do.
Yes. I published the first one on paper. I still have a copy because you know me, I'm a pack rat, so I still have a copy.
Well,
Yes, Shelley, go ahead. You're on mute, Shelley. You're on-
Yeah, I know. Is there a service available for someone who wants to go on a city website to sign up for something and it tried 10 times, intelligent people who aren't illiterate, you know, in terms of technology? Is there anyone they can call individually to help them go through what seems like an impossible journey?
That's a very good question. Jessica, do you know how to answer that? Because other than do it, I have no clue, and I don't think they would do that. Do you have any clue, Jessica?
I don't think, I've never heard of a service that does that in the city. I think individual agencies can sometimes help you, but it's an excellent idea.
I think it's something that should exist, Shelley. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So Gabby, when you have your forums, make sure you mention that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
All right. All right. So our next speaker is Hannah Schenk, Director of Public Interest Technology, New America, and founder and editor of The Commons, which is a publication for people working on government innovation efforts in technology. That's right up my alley. So go ahead, Hannah. We're so happy that you're here. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I must admit, I'm on the board of the National League of Cities, and I'm always going to these forums in different parts of the country or on Zoom. And, you know, like Plato or Plano, Texas, or some godforsaken place like that has like complete municipal free Wi-Fi. And then they have every single student has a device. And then every single senior has been, as Shelley suggested, given tutorials. And they have an office downtown where you can figure out how to use your not just your cell phone, but your Easy Pass. All these questions seem like, oh, no brainers, but they require some discussion. We have none of the above. So I can't wait to hear from you, because I'm always being asked, like I have to chair something in November with all these cities and towns. And I have to explain what New York does. And it's kind of hard. But Hannah, go ahead. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I am right there with you. I run the Public Interest Technology program at New America, but I am a New Yorker. I live in Brooklyn, and I'm raising 5th generation Brooklynites. So I feel your pain. So at New America, we're a DC tech-focused think tank. And our mission is to grow the field of public interest technology, which we define as the application of design, data, and a focus on delivery to advance the public interest and promote the public good in the digital age. I published a book with my colleague Tara McGinnis, who is a veteran of the Obama White House and of the healthcare.gov disaster. And we, over my shoulder, the Power to the Public, it's basically a manifesto on public interest technology and why this is the methodology that people need to use to solve public problems in an era where technology is very often part of the solution, although it also doesn't necessarily have to be. So in the book, we use a bunch of case studies, and we talk about the fact that these elements are not new on their own, but that what is new is that people are using this combination, data, delivery, and design, to serve people better and to solve problems at their root. And in the book, we make the case that we need to adapt our approaches if we want to solve problems from climate change to homelessness. We can't do it the way that we have been. And that now more than ever is a moment when we need a new generation of public problem solving that provides meaningful change. So at New America, we have 3 different focuses to grow the field of public interest technology. And one of them is evangelization, which the book is a part of. We have seen that when we lift up stories to say, here is how Phoenix created massively improved recycling rates with human behavior and behavioral nudges that they tracked, and they had this great data operation that they used to track success. That when we lift up a story like that, immediately as soon as it publishes, we see other cities saying, oh, hey, why can't we do that in New Orleans? And hey, we can do that in Detroit. So part of our work is just to make this kind of work is happening, and to lift it up and make it visible so that people are excited about it and want to do it and want to find out how. We also have a university network, of which there are a number of universities in the city that are members. And that piece of work is focused on training the next generation of leaders to be tech fluent. So training policy people to have some level of tech fluency, and then training policy people, sorry, I said that the wrong way. Training policy people to have some level of tech fluency, and training technologists to know that policy is an option for them. They can take their tech skills and they can go into government. It is extremely needed. And there can be a place for them. So of course, some of our work is also making sure there's a place for them. And then finally, we run hands-on projects so that we can do work that we see is essential for the field to grow. So one of the pieces one of the shapes that work takes is currently we just launched a project on Congress, bringing a public interest technology approach to lawmakers on the Hill. So we are looking at the Emergency Rental Assistance Program that was authorized as part of the CARES Act.
Mm-hmm.
And we read the same article that everybody else did that was in the Times that said only 10% of the funds had been distributed. We don't know if that is because there is a delivery problem and people in the states can't get the funds out, or if actually it's been delivered to exactly the 10% of the population who need it. We don't know, and it's somewhat unanswerable, I think. We're digging in to see, are there things that could have been done with the way that the policy was written that would have prevented design and delivery challenges down the road? And the goal is to see who did that really well and also see who is lagging behind. We're starting to see some of the top states, Virginia, North Carolina. New York is not in the top. New York has not been responsive to this project, which is we're working in conjunction with the United States Digital Service. They said nobody from New York has returned their calls. There is some publicly available data that something like $500,000 has been delivered out of $1 billion. So not a lot. Again, we don't know, is that going to the right people? In which case, great. If it's slow and it gets to the right people, that's great. We don't know if it's going to the right people. We don't know why it's being slow. It's getting out slowly. So that project is figure out what the delivery problems were and take it back to the lawmakers who wrote the law, who wrote the policy, to say, when you write it this way, if you specify this, then this happens. And if you don't specify this, then all of these things happen. To try to, as I'm a private sector person originally, so I will just say, we're trying to get the policymakers to eat their own dog food a little bit, to say, here's what you did, and here's actually how it plays out in today's world. And so that's not going to work. So I will stop talking, but I think that's sort of the overview of our work.
I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. There may be questions. Katie, do you have a question? I have got lots. Go ahead, Katie.
Trying to unmute? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Hannah. Gail was at a meeting on Saturday that the Mitchell-Lama Residents Coalition had, and we were discussing ERAP with Senator Kavanaugh. And I just want to put on your list that in New York, there's a group of people, cooperators, who are neither fish nor fowl, shall we say, but the federal law allows ERAP to go for maintenance in co-ops, and we have low income co-ops, HDFCs, and Mitchell-Lamas, but there's something in the state that's stopping that. And you know that there's someone who's reading the law that says no, it can't go to cooperators, but cooperators don't have deeds; they have leases with their corporations. So it's something. There's another hurdle, and I just want to put it on your radar since you seem to be working on this issue. So thank you very much. Thank you, Gail, as always.
Thank you. So I have a question, actually, again, back to Jim Karras, because we always do kind of pre-passage of laws impact on the finances, but maybe we should do afterward the law passes, or even before you decide impact that could be assisted by this process of what is the impact to the people of this law, and is it making a difference, and how can technology help? Is that something that, I don't know, but when I'm listening to Hannah speak, I'm thinking we don't do that kind of evaluation, which is what she's talking about for the ERAP.
So an incoming council member proposing a technology impact statement?
Yes,
Is
exactly.
that what I'm hearing?
That is exactly what you're hearing, or something that Hannah can come up with that would add to the, is this really doing what it says it's doing? And if not, we should go back and fix it. That's what you're saying, I think, not for everything, but it is an idea that if this is going to work with the ERAP, it might be something to look at for other, particularly where there's a lot of challenge in terms of you know, the law, not something that's not as impactful, but health, housing, things that have real subsequent support for residents. I don't know, something to think about, because I've never heard that happening. Maybe you have, but as somebody going, the feds are asking for help as to what is or isn't working. Shelley, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's another part to this. Very rarely do the affected people have input into the law.
Right.
So they would know what problems they foresee or what would help facilitate their accessing the service or the grant. And what always ends up happening is the people who are affected are suffering and struggling. So I think, the top-down piece here is problematic, but the fact, as you had presented, that the policy for design and delivery, how to mediate it so it will work better technologically and otherwise, is essential too. So I think both of those pieces need to be in there if government's going to be more effective serving people.
Okay, I appreciate it. Are there other people who have questions? Obviously, I could spend hours on this topic on it because I can't tell you how much I love it. And it really helps me because I have to chair the committee in November at the National League of Cities. So I may be calling you for help. What am I going to say to all these people that have already done what I want to do? Because they always chime in. Why isn't New York doing this? I don't know. It's so hard because, when you have, I don't know, 20,000 people in your city, you can do a lot more. At least I think you can. We got 20,000 people on 79th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus, so it makes it a little hard. Any other questions? It's really, everybody should read your book. Tell us the name of the book again. Everybody should read the book, Power to the Public. Is that the name of the book? Everybody should read your book for sure. Yes, here it is, Power to the Public. So everybody should read the book. And Fern, is there anything that the seniors could use along with what this discussion is? Because they were hurt so badly during this pandemic. Oh my goodness. In terms of technology being helpful to them.
So as you know, the city is in the process of distributing tablets through the senior centers.
Yes.
But having sufficient people and methods to teach people how to get email addresses. I mean, it's so basic that we need every level of help, because OATS will help if you can get onto their virtual platform, but there's so much you need to learn before you get there.
And I think just so you know, Anna, the city learned because the city gave 17,000 tablets to residents at NYCHA. I have a horrible feeling that if I go to a closet right now at NYCHA, I might find those tablets right there in the closet, in the maintenance room. And there was no, because I saw them piled up in the lobbies. Well, that's disaster right there. And also nobody helped. So I don't have no clue, and there's no follow-up to the best of my knowledge. I could be wrong. Somebody on this call could tell me. Okay, you have 17,000 tablets that were distributed during the pandemic, which is good. Where are they? Who's using them? Who is signed on, et cetera, et cetera. So they learned, the city learned their lesson. Definitely give them to the senior centers. And as hard as that is for Fern and her colleagues and others, at least they know where the tablets are going. They know that Mr. Jones has a problem, that Mr. Rodriguez is fine, whatever. But I hate to I don't even want to ask about the 17,000 because I think I know what happened. Shula, you had a question.
Sure, this is a follow-up for Fern. In your experience working with your older adults, of course, in the sense that we can all learn more, I definitely can learn more about the devices that I have, but about how many sessions or how much time do you find it takes for, again, in general, for your adults to feel comfortable using the devices that they have?
A lot of time. So it really depends if we structure something where, let's say we do a month of classes, then people get that repetition day after day after day, you're going to have more success. But what tends to happen is people get a class, then they take their device home, they're supposed to try to use it. They forgot all about how they're supposed to use it, even with instructions. And then they come back and start all over again. So I think it really needs like groups of seniors to have blocks of classes. But I'm going to use my senior center as an example. The city said they're giving me 174 tablets. We called 325 people, and I think we maybe have 100 people who said yes. The majority of them are afraid of the technology, don't want to commit to learning how to use it. If we let them give it to their grandson, they'd be happy to take it. But I said, no, that's not the purpose. And you have to commit to using it for participating in virtual activities. And so we ended up with 100 people who said yes. Patricia is asking a question. She asked if the tablets are being distributed now. Our deadline for contacting our list of people was Friday. Yet today I got an email allowing it to extend to tomorrow. We finished making all the calls by Friday in my 3 senior centers. But if I have the opportunity, which I do, to reach out to additional people and say, would you like a tablet? They haven't given us more time to do that outreach. And they're saying that they're going to start distributing the tablets in 2 weeks.
Okay. Maria, you had a question about how you use it for classes. Go ahead. ESL, I think.
Well, not a question, just saying that in terms of technology, we are using it to our benefit. And we were surprised that more folks want to do virtual adult classes than in person. So we had to figure out how to marry the two. And so we do have a live teacher with live students, and then folks are joining the class virtually. So we'll figure out by the end of the semester how it really went in terms of educational gains, you know, the people who are at home taking care of their kids. Are they able to concentrate and do what they need to do as adult learners? So we're figuring it out, but we would encourage the city to be flexible with this, because we did have to go and fight with DY City in order to get that, because they wanted most of our students to be in person and most of our students wanted to be virtual.
Right. Hannah, this is a good thing for New America, because not only do NIMIC students want to have the hybrid, but so does the rest of the world. I mean, I ran into over the weekend, I don't want to believe it, a whole bunch of city workers. I'm not even going to tell you which agency, because I don't want to get them in trouble. But they do not want to come. They will come in a few days a week, but they want to work at home. And these are people who never see the public. I mean, in my office, we see the public. They never see the public. They're the, you know, the maturations and the machinery of city government. I'm going to leave it at that, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But they, I mean, and so, and I think you can just take Maria and NIMIC and just multiply it times everybody else giving classes, the seniors too. So then the question is, what does work? What should government allow, disallow, et cetera, et cetera. And the private sector, they're also having, because I run obviously into a lot of friends from law firms and financial firms and so on and so forth. And they can do whatever they want. This, you know, it's private money. This is public money. What should we be doing with it? All of Maria's contracts are mostly public money. What should the public sphere post-COVID be in terms of this hybrid? It's very, and you have to do a different kind of analysis and so on and so forth too. Yes, Fern, go ahead.
So it's the same for us. Our experience in the past 18, 19 months was that the majority of our contact was by phone. I know you and I have discussed that, Gail. Yeah. And so this is really an opportunity for the seniors to be able to be more tech capable. But I think, Maria, you and I may want to follow up on the best ways to teach, because I think it's going to be challenging for us as well.
Yeah, and also for the city agencies to do what is best for you, because you know, that's the thing that New America could help us with. What is the evaluation and the analysis of what is the best working? Because we'll do whatever we have to do, but it would be nice to have some evaluation. I know this is the question on the street. In addition to bicycles, scaffolding, quality of life, and housing, and NYCHA, it's this question: hybrid. What is it? Oh my God, I'm afraid to go out because I'm going to get hit with it, and every time I just turn my head. But thank you, everybody. That was really fabulous. And I think everybody should go to the New America website, and everybody should read your book. And we look forward to talking further. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Okay, the next speaker is a friend, and she's fabulous, Emily Goldman. She's director of the Civic Innovation Fellowship Program at Beta NYC. Now, I'm sure she will tell you what Beta NYC is. She's also a PhD out of Cornell on technology, and she is one fabulous human being. So Emily, go ahead. As you know, I'm one of your biggest fans, and I hope too you'll talk about, because I'm interested in what is happening with the courthouse data. That would also be helpful. I think your people do care a lot about housing.
Yeah.
Go
okay.
ahead, Emily Goldman, Dr. Emily Goldman, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Gail. I appreciate that introduction. Yeah, so hello, everyone. It's nice to be here and hear about everything. And yeah, we've segued really well into this next bit, which will focus a little bit more about how data and technology can be utilized together as we move forward into the COVID recovery. So I'm going to, Beta NYC is a civic organization that's been working alongside the Borough President's Office for about 7 years now. Gabby, whom you heard from, is one of our Civic Innovation Fellows who has become a staff person with us. And we run a fellowship program for CUNY students every year. With the Borough President's Office. One of the things that we've been working on for a few years now is a specific use case of data and technology that I will highlight today. But broadly speaking, that is sort of our intersection, is how data and technology together can be used to illuminate social issues and be leveraged to serve as evidence for policymaking, and really just sort of push the ball forward in terms of transparency and accountability of the way that the city is functioning and the things that communities are experiencing. And of course, Borough President Brewer, when she served in city council, helped usher in and author New York City's open data law, which is just an enormous milestone that many of you may be aware of. But I mean, it is just such an amazing sort of part of her legacy for New York City, and also to serve as a model for cities all across the country and really world. New York City's open data program is top tier. We now have 3,000 data sets available on the open data platform. And I mean, that is Gail's creation. So that's pretty cool. So, I think we can all recognize how these data sets are useful to the city, to research institutes, to organizations who make use of it. Prior, we might be all kind of operating, under anecdotal knowledge, and now we have that sort of precise information to pinpoint things and quantify trends and map issues. So the use case that I'm going to talk about briefly is related to housing. So the city has come an enormous way in terms of data about housing that supports like the affordable housing movement in New York City. When it comes to information about rent stabilization and evictions and housing complaints and violations, and even ownership issues related to housing, all of this information just in the last few years is available for people to work with and analyze and try to push policy forward to make a more just housing environment. So one of the projects that we've been working on for 3 years now, I can't believe it's been 3 years, but it is, Beta NYC and the Borough President's Office and a group called the Housing Data Coalition, which are individuals from housing organizations throughout the city who work in housing organizations, like, for instance, the Association for Neighborhood Housing and Development, ANHD, which maybe you have heard of, or University Neighborhood Housing Program, that's UNHP, and other organizations, the Right to Counsel Coalition. These are individuals who come from those organizations, but have a particular interest and a particular expertise in data, data analysis, data science, and sort of computer programming and web development. And they have brought these interests together to coalesce important housing data sets and make tools with them, which then support the work of on the ground people doing work to make people to help move forward, a fair housing system for this city. So as we go into the next phase of COVID recovery and as eviction proceedings are going to start again, we have been working to get some important data sets that that will help that now that we've gotten some important data, this information can be used to sort of get ahead of the curve of the eviction proceedings that are going to start again, and support the work of entities that are, trying to help keep people safe in their homes, essentially. So some developments that have happened over the past few years. There's some amazing tools that have been created that make use of all of these data sets: rent stabilization, violations, complaint, ownership issues, eviction, stuff like this. These tools include things like DAP map, which stands for the Displacement Alert Project, and ANHD, the organization that created DAP map, has presented at the Borough President's Office before, showing their tools. Another tool by an organization called Just Fix, called Who Owns What in New York City, which brings transparency to the issue of ownership of buildings in a very tech savvy kind of way that couldn't be done without really expertise in this technology stuff. So these tools are, now as we enter the next phase of COVID recovery, these tools are in a very good condition to help people better understand the landscape of housing issues, and to hopefully shed light on some issues and equip people with the information they need to sort of target resources more effectively, ideally to help tenants throughout the city. And then just a little bit more broadly, well, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for right now, but I hope that story about housing data and housing tools resonates with some of you as a way that as a use case of how data and technology are being leveraged by very well-intentioned and very savvy individuals that we are lucky to have in our city, to help shed light to housing and hopefully help shape the recovery of the pandemic when it comes to housing issues.
Emily, thank you. And I know I have questions, but others, I think if you wanted to just, I don't know if it's appropriate, but talk a little bit about the court that you have been doing. That's phenomenal. And see if, I don't know how far along it is, but just the fact that you have met with the Chief Justice and that you've had some luck in trying to get level 1, if not level 2, because the idea, of course, is to be proactive so that we know where there will be evictions and try to prevent them. That's the goal. Not necessarily there yet, but go ahead.
Oh, yes. And thank you, Santa, for mentioning that. Yeah, absolutely. Those are some great people that you mentioned. And then they're very much involved with the work that we referenced, the Housing Data Coalition. But yeah, so there is information about evictions that one can find on the open data platform. But there's more information about housing court filings that is not yet on the open data platform. And Gail Brewer has helped Beta NYC and the Housing Data Coalition move forward with getting access to the more extensive information than what is currently available on the open data platform. And we are working toward making that as available as we can, given the privacy and security issues with it.
All right, that's it. All right, so Jessica, do you have questions or other questions about what it is that the great work that Emily's doing on the housing front?
I would just say, because I know there's people on the call from elected offices and community boards that, the housing data is amazingly important and huge, but maybe if you could just mention also some of the other data that you've been able to help community boards and others deal with, particularly now when there are so many quality of life issues. How can we track the three, even just something as simple as 311 and map it and give people access to be able to use that data in the work that they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a system called RADAR, which stands for Research and Data Assistance Requests, and you can get to it. Gabby will put the link into the chat. But that is a service that we offer to anyone who needs help sort of munging some data when it relates to anything, quality of life, 311, NYCHA, transportation, we can help sort of serve your data needs through that system. So yeah, so our work certainly transcends. I mean, it's not just in the housing realm. With our sort of our interest and assistance in helping people utilize data for their own purposes. So yeah, so we've also early on, years ago, we helped build a tool called BoardStat, which Gail and her staff asked us to create. BoardStat breaks down 311 data by community board throughout the city. And it helps community boards better understand what are the most pertinent and timely 311 issues and map them and that kind of thing. If BoardStat, if the design of BoardStat doesn't quite suit your purposes, that's exactly when you submit a radar and ask for assistance with a specific 311 question.
Makes sense to me. All right, and I think the other question that I would have, Emily, is going forward, maybe you've sort of said this, but sort of to answer some of the questions that Anna had, like when she gave the example of, her example. What else should we be doing as a city, either to do some kind of an evaluation of how technology and policy are working together? I mean, maybe my idea was crazy. You should look at something that is working or not working from a tech perspective. That might be more complicated than what we want, like an EIS for technology. That might be too complicated. But I don't know if there's some other way that we could get off the dime on technology really being helpful to the public. And one way, of course, is to evaluate whether it's actually working in is it working in housing? Is it working in wastewater treatment for the people? It's not working necessarily for small business, because I hear about that all the time. So I don't know, is there any kind of an evaluation that should be done of whether or not the technology that's used is working for a particular policy? That might be too broad a question, but even what Fern is doing for the seniors, or what Maria's doing in terms of teaching ESL classes, like how do we evaluate technology usage for a certain policy? I guess that's my question.
I guess I would, kind of circle back to what Gabby was talking about, which is our way of trying to get a sense of people's technology satisfaction and needs. That is, broadly across communities across the city, because it is that is pretty much exactly the question that I think that Gabby spoke to trying to address, which, because it's such a broad question, but such an important one, and the only way to really start to address it is by just talking to people, getting out there and talking to people, and having people from all different walks of life and communities come together and just get it all kind of start to have those conversations. That would be my thought, but it looks like we've got someone from the room kind of having another idea.
Hannah wants to jump in. Go ahead, Hannah. Thank you so much.
So one thing that we have found is actually to kind of, that's helpful, is to flip the framing so that it's not where has technology been successful in implementing a policy, but what are the successful policies, and is technology a piece of that? Is there a piece where, because part of there's a balance between technology for technology's sake versus technology is used because it's the right tool to use.
Yeah.
So are there policies where technology has been implemented? Are there policies that have been successful where technology was a tool?
Good question. All right. That would be more what any kind of wouldn't be an environmental impact statement, would be a technology impact statement to see whether or not your question can be answered. That's fascinating. Okay. I love this discussion. I could be here all night long, but is there somebody else who has any questions about anything? In terms of the health field, because that's what we're all trying to deal with now, we're trying to just obviously get people vaccinated, wanting to be sure that people, the test and trace. I assume, again, to sort of answer your question, I assume in all of this, the technology has been helpful. I mean, you couldn't possibly keep track of all this and without it. And then the new apps pop up, the city and the state, God forbid they should work together. But there are two different apps to keep track of those of us who have been and other walking around with the card. I think that would be, sort of healthcare is, whether it's the health records, the whole healthcare system without compromising personal information, which is always the challenge, could really use. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in, but I think that's a place where technology has a lot of room to grow. Certainly to answer your question, Hannah, which is if it's successful policy, has technology been helpful in it or not? And what are the ways that it has been helpful? And what are the ways that it hasn't been helpful? Those are the kinds of very good questions that I would love to have answered on every single policy that we come up with. Just keeping track of the data in a city this large is so complicated. And even though there's an open data platform, it still needs a lot of work. We know that. There's, what's real time? Even like every construction site, we're now doing, don't even mention that East River Park. I don't want to think about it. So that's a big park and it's a big project. It's $2 billion. And one of the small issues is, what is the dust today in my neighborhood? Can I get some real-time data as to what that dust is? How can the technology help me? And that sounds like not too complicated. It doesn't seem to be happening. Even something that simple. So, okay, so now say for instance, we can get the real-time data coming out of I don't know, some kind of a smokestack. I don't know what it's called, pipe. Okay, now who in the neighborhood can actually analyze it, and who's going to get it out to the community? So to close your windows, keep them open. Be careful of the children. Who's got compromised medical issues, so shouldn't go out. All those kinds of issues we can't seem to get the tech right to be able to handle. And the list goes on. Those and how can the city government operate? Respond if, God forbid, there is an abundance of toxics coming into the neighborhood. What the hell should we be doing? And those are the kinds of issues that I would love technology to play a bigger role in. But we're not there with the population yet. And we're certainly not 100% even, I don't know if we're 50% real time on some of these issues. Otherwise, what's the point? The day later, toxics are already in the atmosphere. What's it, those kinds of issues. All right, I don't, Jessica, Shula, anything else? I can't tell you, this is fabulous discussion.
Oh, Shelley has one more question.
Who has a question, Shula?
Hey, Shelley is unmuting himself.
Shelley, go ahead. Yeah, Shelley, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the weakest accesses to data is data about housing. People go on Housing Connect and they don't know what's going on for the longest time. And then suddenly they generally find out they didn't make it. They don't know why. They don't know how many people what the demographics of the people are who were accepted. There's suspicion about things, waiting lists, preferences for disabilities, for residency in the area. All these things seem to be hidden, and not only during the process, but afterwards. So people feel that they're not getting a fair shake. And then some people are pleasantly surprised, but most people are very, have great questions about this process, and we don't have the information. And I work in the area, and I can't give anybody any information except try again, and I can't tell them anything. Okay.
It's a good point, Shelley, and something to work on. I don't know that it's just Beta NYC or if it's just an administration that is hell-bent against sharing anything and not transparent. I know there's a line between personal information and transparency, but there is a way of doing at least more transparency, particularly information that's available to the public. You're right. I get the same questions that you do. All right, anything else? Shauna, did you have your hand up or you were just talking to people? I couldn't tell.
Oh, sorry. Intentively listening. We're getting ready for vaccination and flu COVID clinic tomorrow. So everyone was getting excited. Sorry.
I got it. All right.
Thank you
very much. Okay. Thank you for always participating also. I appreciate it. All right. So I think that's it, unless anybody else. Millie, did you want to say something about some announcement? You're muted, Millie. You're muted. You're muted. You're still muted. Millie, you're muted. You're muted. I can't. I'll read. Yeah, go ahead, Millie. Are you unmuted? No. Jessica?
She's still muted, but the
East Harlem Community Partnership is co-hosting a fair with New York City Child Safe Fleet Program, October 25th at Union Settlement, 237 East 140th Street from 10 to 2. And Millie's giving this to us, even though she's still muted, and it's the most beautiful garden you've ever seen. So just to go see the garden, even if you don't want to go for the program, it's fabulous. I love that garden. It's my favorite. All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, we'll see you next week at 3 o'clock. And thank you for joining us. And thank you all technologists, much appreciated. Talk to you later.